Gamers of the world, welcome to the video. I'm GetGoodGuy and this is Battlefield 5. Recently, as I'm sure you know, we had some massive alterations to gunplay mechanics and overall time to kill values. This was then further tweaked even more recently, and thus we have a great many players just confused beyond belief about what's good and bad, what's now used for what, how quickly some guns now kill, whether the guns are like before can still be used in the same way, and all that kind of stuff. So I've been making list breakdowns to try to clear things up for you guys. Today is no different, and I have several more planned for the near future. This piece of content is focused upon the easy to use guns of BF5 at the time of making this video. Now if you want to get straight to the list, please use the timestamp shown on screen right now, or if you have a decent attention span and interest in the subject matter, let's hit up a brief little explanation of the reasoning behind this list so you can continue to increase your understanding of the game and benefit from it. So I'm viewing this list as a mix of what's good, is easy to use, and can be applied to an array of circumstances. So these weapons are easy to use in a versatile manner, and can be done so by any player with just a moderate amount of ability. So it's not what I personally find to be the absolute best, nor is it the straight up low skill list on this occasion. For me, that kind of list is about the guns that require almost no effort for a certain kind of kill. These guns aren't that. These guns are just what I'd recommend to a player who says, I want the least difficulty to perform decently in most common situations. And of course, this isn't a definitive or official list, it's my opinion, designed to entertain and potentially inform. And your part of the deal is to share your own version of this list in the comments, either now or at the end of the video, so we can all compare and contrast what we like and don't like. Alright, cool, let's get into this. First up, we have Assault, and this shouldn't come as much of a surprise. The STG is extremely good again, better than I even initially thought it was when testing it out recently. I know this is going to be a bit of a lazy label to use considering what this list is about, but it's just easy to use. I know, shocker, I'm selecting the STG for the easy guns list because it's easy, but honestly there's just next to no difficulty involved. I mean, almost everything in the game now shoots damn near like a laser beam anyway, and the STG is competent at short to mid-range, where the most relevant fights now take place due to significant bullets to kill changes at range. But it can also do some damage at longer ranges due to how stable it is, whilst now being less punished by a lot of other range weapons because they simply aren't as effective anymore in that scenario. Long range has moved far closer to irrelevancy than it previously was. MMGs aren't mapping people like they did. SLRs now fire more slowly and don't tend to be picked all that often from what I can tell, etc. Semi-autos just basically aren't as good now. So a lot of the time the STG only really needs to worry about bolt action carbines, bolt action rifles, and perhaps a rare Lewis gun or Madsen, something like that. Because in the current climate, 4 bullets to kill out to 10 meters and 5 bullets to kill out to 30 meters puts the STG in a pretty solid spot, considering its extreme ease of use and 600 rounds per minute rate of fire. And in fact, it still at this point has a better raw time to kill at close range than the Sturmgewehr 1-5. So as far as balancing goes, either the Sturmgewehr is too weak or the STG is too strong. Either way, the STG is starting to earn that God gun moniker again, despite it not being as lethal as it once was, because almost everything else is also less lethal now. The STG just seems less affected. So if you have the basic capabilities of acquiring a target, holding a trigger down and keeping your aim on said target for a fairly brief amount of time, all with fairly minimal recoil to deal with, well then the STG is going to reward you in a very high percentage of your commonly found engagements. And so, a pick that doesn't really require any particularly in-depth intellectual consideration, nor mental gymnastics. The STG is just good and easy to use, and its downsides simply aren't punished enough by the overall weapon balance at this point, and thus it's my choice for the easy gun of the Assault class at this current point in time. Okay, next up we have the Medic class, and I've selected the EMP, a weapon I criminally ignored for far too long, and indeed a weapon that a lot of players simply haven't given a fair shot. A lot of the guys who spend extensive amounts of time analysing stats said even before the TTK changes that the EMP deserves more attention, and now it's solidly in place as a top tier choice that's also pretty damn easy to use. Now I have it ranked up on a separate account, but on this one you're watching, my main account, I honestly hadn't fired a single bullet with it. So everything you're watching is without a single specialisation equipped. This is the worst the weapon can possibly perform, and it still felt really good. Selecting some suitable specs catapulted catapults this weapon into extremely potent territory, and predictably, ease of use flies up as well. Of course, I could have selected something like the Jungle Carbine for this list, but I don't see that as the easiest option. It's a damn good gun, I think one of the absolute best guns in the game, but it does actually require at least some ability to use at a decent level, especially at closer ranges. And on top of that, I wanted to highlight that Medic can still be used for an SMG role. The EMP certainly provides that, and very effectively as well. But why? Well, besides it just being very solid in terms of base stats, plus SMGs being almost mind-numbingly stable after the weapon changes, we can go back to specializations. And thanks to KHT120 for bringing this to my attention, because for all-round ease of use and versatility, the EMP is in a really strong spot, allowing you to use enhanced grips and polished action plus barrel bedding, so you can get a hip-fire machine in CQC while still maintaining some range relevance with ADS. Previously, at least for console, I would have chosen recoil buffer instead, but now it's more open due to the recoil reductions now at play, and as stated, this footage shows the weapon with 0 specializations, and I think most of you will agree that the gun still looks very stable. And then for your top tree pick, you can go for either quick aim for increased ADS play effectiveness, or slings and swivels for increased hipfire play effectiveness. The choice is yours. Overall, I expect to see a lot of the more knowledgeable players gravitating towards the EMP in the coming days, weeks, and months. Unless we get another weapon rebalance, which we may do. But if not, perhaps this will also spread overall usage of the gun in the wider player base. I truly couldn't blame anyone for trying it at this point. It's fantastic. And so the EMP is my easy gun choice for the medic class at this point, but more than just easy, it's actually super good as well. Onwards, and we come to the support class, and I've gone for the KE7. Alright, brief pause here, because in this section I don't mention the BAR, because to me it wasn't of relevance to the points I was making, but I've since realised that because it's new, everyone's going to be thinking about it and going, what about the BAR? Yes, the BAR is pretty good. I would still pick the KE7 over it, statistically, for ease of use, for not having to switch fire modes, all this kind of stuff, and it does outperform the BAR in a lot of ways, but I can understand if other people want the BAR for versatility and ease of use and close quarters effectiveness, etc. That's where I stand on it. Now we don't all have to talk about it in the comments section. Let's carry on. Yup, crazy early game flashbacks here, but I actually didn't get on board with the KE7 hype when the game first released. It was easy to use, but not really one of the best options for an able player. Versatile, but not top tier. Well, I'm selecting it at this point for this list of easy weapons due to that same inherent ease of use as back then, but it's also now a lot better placed in terms of its meta position. It's a better gun when compared with the other options available than if you'd done the same thing when the game first released. Although back then it seemed to be one of the key beneficiaries of the netcode and super bullet issues, but that's not a topic for today's video. The KE7 is now just a really solid choice in a class that kind of got mostly demolished by the TTK changes. There's just not much good competition for it. The Lewis gun is solid, but obviously not as good at closer ranges, and only benefits at mid to long range if extra stability or magazine size is making a difference where raw times kill is concerned for one or multiple targets, because actually the KE7 kills faster than it at all ranges, and I've already talked about how much more relevant close range now is anyway. And you may say, well, if close range is such a factor, why not the LS26 or the FG42? Well, to be blunt, the FG42 is still a terribly balanced weapon, and the KE7 achieves a faster kill time than both of them at around 21 meters, and that's without the light bolt specialization equipped on the KE7. With it equipped, it has an equal or faster time to kill than the LS26 at all ranges, and kills faster than the FG42 from just 11 meters out. And it has 5 more rounds per reload as well. I think this point plus more in this list and others I've done recently really highlight the near total lack of balance now evident in the weapon changes. Some people really don't want to believe it, but honestly, when someone tells you that weapon balance is now absolutely all over the place, you really should believe them. It's objectively correct. And that's why making these lists is now so easy for me to produce. I provide my subjective input, but I can base it largely on objective data, because it's so clear what's now good and what's now bad. And anyway, to round out support, I didn't choose a shotgun because they aren't that easy to use in a truly versatile manner. But make no mistake, shotguns are pretty fantastic for the right player with the game as it is right now. And with all that aside, the KE7 is my choice for the easy gun of the support class at this point. And finally, we come to the Recon class, and I've gone for the Self-Sladder 1906. And this one might be a tad confusing. I don't think this is the best gun in the class, nor the best self-loading rifle, at least not for me. I prefer the ZH-29, as you can utilize an extra bullet. And I think an able player can now select a bolt-action rifle for some true range destruction, as so much else in the game is now so weak at range. And I think the trench carbine with full auto is super easy to use at close range, and also pretty damn good. But for your average or new player just asking for something easy to use for a total range of circumstances, I think the Selb 1906 is a really good shout. It's always a 2-shot kill to center mass, it fires a little faster than the ZH-29, it's good for an array of ranges, and it can obviously utilize the sniper combat role to spot anyone that you land damage on. It's a bit of a weird one really, as the current balance makes it a little tough to put across properly, but the more knowledgeable may understand that it's actually totally to be expected. The easiest option for a lot of players often isn't, and indeed shouldn't be, the best option. I think self-loading rifles are outclassed by a lot in the game now, making more specialized choices a better option if the player can utilize them fully. But again, for just sheer versatility, the Selb 1906 is hard to argue with. Even if not many people are using self-loading rifles right now, I think a lot of that is to do with the easier guns of other classes just being still easier to use, and therefore higher ability players go for Recon and will pick a bolt-action rifle, etc. But regardless, I actually had some fun using this one, and so for me, the Self-Sladder 1906 is the easy gun for the Recon class at this current point. And so, that's my list of the easy guns for every class in Battlefield 5 at this point. So now let me know what you think in the comments below. Give me your list. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, I really appreciate you leaving a like, subscribe and turn on notifications to see my future content, and feel free to follow my stream and join my Discord server in the description and my pinned comment. Here's the Board of Awesome for the epic people who support the channel on Patreon. They're all absolute heroes, and I love them all deeply and of course, often. If you want to join them on the Board of Awesome, the link to the Patreon page is in the description and my pinned comment. And with that all said, I'm GetGoodGuy, and I'll see you next time. Laters. The result is the game that doesn't know what it's trying to be or who it's for, and that's not a good spot to be in. But what do I mean about them ruining their own good work? Well, I'm referring to the concept of the wrong people having controlling power, and the genuinely capable people being held in limited positions. Because good stuff really can come from those within DICE,